because you're giving them touch points with the millennials. We've kind of talked about the millennials now have quite a bit of money or just have inherited quite a bit more. Corporations are starting to shift their focus to them to pick up money. So the key with all these three programs, though, is feedback. Millennials, as we've talked about, crave feedback. And you'd either be sending out tweets and saying, listen, we're $5,000 away from our new Angola treatment clinic, or a picture on the website that has the old-fashioned kind of thermometer that's filling up. You get this close to your goal, and really kind of drive feedback with the millennials. It's also important to note that all three of these programs can be applied to people other than millennials. You can do this with different organizations of different demographics. So if you don't want to just focus on millennials with one of these, you can kind of open it up a little bit. So now once you're in a good spot in 2016, you feel good. But in 2017, Dave's going to talk about a really revolutionary idea that's going to take you from where you need to be as a nonprofit to where you want to be.
Like any good millennial, I'm going to have an iPad of notes, just in case. Thanks, Nick. All right, so as we look out towards 2017, we do want to point out that in 2015 and 2016, as we move out onto the long-term time horizon scale, we're not stopping or slowing down any of the initiatives that we've already discussed tonight and that are laid out in a written report. We do go ahead and we lay out additional programs in 2017, and you'll notice as you kind of go through the written report that as we gain a little bit of success and momentum over the next couple of years, millennials are going to want to be wowed, right? They're going to want to see the envelope pushed a little bit. They're going to want to see bigger, more innovative, more strategic thinking on the part of Saving Moses. But before I get into our key strategic recommendation, because I'm only going to talk about one tonight, before I get into that, I do want to take a quick step back. I want to remind us just how incredibly crowded and competitive the nonprofit landscape is. In the US alone, there are over 1.5 million nonprofits that are eligible for tax-deductible contributions right now. Now, as competitive and as crowded and as vibrant marketplace the nonprofit world is, true mega financial success has really been few and far between on a broad scale, right? If we look at the last 50 years, and we're comparing nonprofits to for-profits, we've seen nearly 50,000 for-profits hit $50 million in annual revenue, while only 114 nonprofits have met that same threshold. Now, it's a 400 times difference, and it's not for lack of effort, right? Over these last 50 years, nonprofits have been working relentlessly at the traditional grant writing and donor outreach fundraising methods, but we just haven't seen that same level of financial superstardom when we compare it to the for-profit world. The good news is, as you know, in tonight's presentation, I should say, in the last 10 weeks of research, is that we have an answer, right? We're going to go after the millennial demographic. Millennials, as we've established, is the wealthiest generation in history. We're talking about the most financially savvy and powerful, and most interestingly, they're the most altruistic and willing to give away their money. So it's no wonder that Saving Moses is going after this millennial demographic and asking them to invest and donate in Saving Moses' cause and mission. But I do want to ask you a question. What if this was the long way, or perhaps even the wrong way, of going after this demographic? Because we have to consider the fact that this solution is out there for everybody. And as crowded and as competitive of an environment as it is, I mean, how are we going to differentiate ourselves? I want to take a look now at 2017 and ask, what if we flip the model, the fundraising model, entirely on its head? We've talked quite a bit about the millennials and who they are, but we haven't mentioned one thing, how incredibly entrepreneurial this demographic is. There's never been a time before in history where we've seen as much wealth created at such a fast rate and at such young ages. Now, what I want to discuss is the point that I'm driving at is that beneath the surface of the traditional fundraising and donor outreach, grant writing, is an unbelievable paradigm shift that's ready to shake up the philanthropic marketplace. Non-cash revenue streams in the form of public and private equity, although not new to the nonprofit world, are now mixing with this entrepreneurial generation in an unprecedented way. At the forefront of this model, or at the forefront of this movement, this paradigm shift is what's known as the one-for-one-for-one model which you might recall Mary the millennial discussing over coffee with her friend at the cafe. Pioneering and spearheading this movement is a gentleman by the name of Mark Benioff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's the CEO of Salesforce.com, which is one of the biggest companies in the world right now. Benioff also happens to be one of the top philanthropists in the world. He is championing an effort right now to ask and urge businesses of today and tomorrow being run by millennials to donate a founding or existing equity stake as well as 1% time and 1% revenue to a nonprofit or nonprofits of their choice. I want to let Benioff, it's about a 90-second clip, explain a little bit more.
Oh, come on, Mark.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. You know, when I started Salesforce.com over 10 years ago, the day we started Salesforce.com, and through the inspiration of kind of my guru in philanthropy and social responsibility, Colin Powell, we did something unusual with the company. We took 1% of our equity, 1% of our profit, and 1% of our time and put it into a 501c3 public charity. Well, that was pretty easy. There was no equity, there was no profit, and there were no people in the company, so pretty straightforward. But we thought, you know what, if Salesforce is successful and we grow up, that idea of integrating social responsibility with a commercial company with this 1-1-1 model could be extremely exciting. So it's incredibly inspiring to see over 200,000 hours of community service by our employees. They get 4 hours paid off a month or 6 days a year. We've given away over $14 million in grants, with a lot more to come in pure cash donations. And we run over 6,000 nonprofits for free or at deeply discounted prices off our commercial price list. Some of the most well-known NGOs and social organizations in the world. Companies can do more than just make money. They can serve others and specifically serve the nonprofit community. I know on a board that I'm a member of called the Committee to Encourage Corporate Philanthropy, our job is to get out there and really show how corporations can change the world and make them a better place.
Thank you, Mark. So now, while this might seem like an idealistic vision, this movement, this paradigm shift is absolutely catching fire. And the most exciting part is that it's actually happening right here in our own backyards. There's an organization in Boulder called the Entrepreneurs Foundation, which is made up of a network of local Colorado entrepreneurs who not only believe in this paradigm shift, this one-for-one model, but actually have already pledged to donate an existing equity portion of their company's ownership to a local nonprofit of their choice, as well as time and revenue. A small sample of these companies are listed on the slide here. This is a very small sample. Since 2008, these companies and companies like it have donated over $2 million in the forms of both equity and revenue to front-range nonprofits. I want to ask, do these companies know about Saving Moses and the wonderful mission that you guys are embarked on? Now, while not all of the companies will align with Saving Moses' mission and values, there are most certainly local entrepreneurs who will identify with saving babies' lives. We strongly encourage you guys to go out and communicate with as many of these pledging companies as possible and see if there's an alignment, see if there's a strategic fit. In addition, we encourage you guys in 2017 or sooner to go out to the local business community and see if there's possible synergies with local businesses, perhaps that are catering to mothers or to babies, perhaps even hospitals, and see if there's a fit there. Talk about the one-for-one model, introduce Saving Moses to the business community. From a business's standpoint, there are incredible goodwill and tax benefits, not to mention a lot of research is showing that there's an uptick in productivity levels by the employee base, north of 20%, I think. For Saving Moses, there's the opportunity here to capture exponential revenue streams that will last a lifetime and completely change your course. In addition, there's also the opportunity to add a new board member through this corporate partnership, as well as be able to rally around some of the unbelievable publicity and marketing through the integration of both the nonprofit and business worlds. So as we look out towards 2017, we really want to encourage Saving Moses to think about this outside of the box strategy, as this is an opportunity to capture a revolutionary movement, and we believe that Saving Moses will have the ability over the next 2 years to be in position to execute on this strategy.
Thanks a lot, David. Well, to wrap this up tonight, I would just want to bring us back to day one. So day one, our objective as a consulting group for Saving Moses was to capture as much information about the millennial demographic and create recommendations and a strategy for you to move forward. Well, I would have to say that after our 10-week journey and learning as much as we possibly can about the millennials, this group has the drive, the skill, and the network that Saving Moses needs to be a sustainable organization. There's a few numbers that I want to leave you with tonight that have been said before, but I really want to drive them home. 75 million. 75 million is the number of millennials in America right now, making up 25% of our population. 200 billion. 200 billion is the purchasing power for the millennials annually. And 75%. 75% is the percentage of millennials that have given to a nonprofit. So this is who Merry Millennial represents for you guys. Our question to you is, though, why aren't they giving to Saving Moses yet? This needs to be the next demographic that you go after. So at this point, though, after the presentation, you might be thinking that a lot of these recommendations might seem very labor-intensive, financially burdening. What we do have to say is that many of these options are very cost-effective and very low in labor resources, just due to the very nature of this demographic. You might also be thinking, a lot of these recommendations sound great, but how is it that we actually get to this millennial donor base? And truly, it has to be through organic growth in your social media platforms. You need to be utilizing the hashtag #DonateMoolah to create the community of donors that you're looking for. So next steps. What we've created for you in that very large packet there is a roadmap. In that roadmap, we've laid out for you goals. Along with those goals are the strategy and plan to actually capture those goals. We must say that this opportunity has been great for us. We see so much opportunity for Saving Moses to be an amazing not-for-profit. We really have been lucky as a consulting group throughout the last 10 weeks to have an organization with such a strong passion and mission, because it has allowed for us to create a vision for you based on your strong mission. We are your raving fans. We really want to thank you again for everything that you've been able to offer us the last 10 weeks, and now we'd just like to open it up for some questions.
You guys actually created that Right Fund?
Yeah, it's live and running.
Yeah, donate Moolah.
Did you guys get a check from
Donate
us, by the
Moolah
way?
to-
I
for
wanted to
Moolah.
ask you.
I'll have to check with our banking.
Okay.
Where would it be from?
Well, it was from me,
Right
but it was a
funds.
test donation. But-
A huge one.
It was a lot.
The 75, $200 million.
Take my-
All 200.
Take my 25 add a bunch of zeros. But no, actually, Heidi, I am curious to know how
When it
that
comes
was
through.
received by however you guys received payments through your bank or.
Was that through the Bright Fund?
That is
Yeah.
through Bright Funds. Yeah, you guys have a you guys are on Bright Funds as a standalone featured nonprofit, and then as Rob mentioned, you guys are already part and spearheading this Moolah Fund, which Rob was talking about, can integrate and add other nonprofits that share similar, doesn't necessarily have to be saving babies, but maybe geographically it makes sense. And we think that there's some crossover there between the most urgent, least available. So you have those two different
And
forms
the
right
Donate
now.
Moolah, that's on Bright Funds, is that?
Donate Moolah is a hashtag that will carry through basically all your social media
And Facebooks.
platforms, which includes Bright Funds.
Gotcha.
So the upshot of that is that it's wide open blue ocean right now. So when you look it up, there's nothing competing with it. Whereas if you just do hashtag Moolah, there's some stuff in there that you don't want to compete with. So hashtag Donate Moolah gives you a lot of green field to go and create a movement around it. And it's cross-platform.
Yeah, with Bright Funds, Rob was talking about the flagship funds. And we gained a little bit of traction. They have, I think it's 7 flagship funds, and there's actually only about a dozen or so nonprofits that are all very well known that are in those funds as constituents. And the hope, the long-term strategy for Saving Moses would be to eventually be included into one of those flagship funds, because that's just, people won't even need to know Saving Moses, and you guys will be getting sustainable, steady cash flow.
They hit on the millennials donate to causes, not organizations thing. Before we stumbled into it, and they created a business around it. The idea is you have a cause and you give money to the cause, and they pre-vet the organizations so that the giver can know that the money's going to be well spent.
Our vision now is that the Donate Moolah, most urgent, least available, could actually be a standalone fund in the future. If it catches enough momentum and grows enough, and other nonprofits want to be included, that could actually be a standalone flagship fund that they don't even know about yet. So I get jazzed up about that.
You can do a whole separate presentation on that if you want.
Yeah.
He's available.
I'm available
next couple weeks.
And the season's over, so.
The suit has a one-time usage, so if you want him in a suit again, it's going to take a year.
Yeah.
Any more questions though?
Like I'm ruminating,
Me too.
First off, thanks Boatloads for massive amount of work. Because clearly, they're the smart ones, and obviously we already established that, we're not the smart ones. So thanks massively, hardcore, because you're right, millennials, we're not getting them. So it's a target-rich environment. So like totally, really pumped. And I love that, like, just, map it out. Step 1, step 2, so much.
We heard a lot of tell us the how, and so we tried to deliver as much how as we could.
Yeah. Because the how part of us, we got the passion on it, it's the execution of that rolls us out. And we can execute programs